Are you wasting too much time transferring files from your mobile phone or from your camera onto your computer? If you've got large video files, this can be an incredibly time-consuming, frustrating experience. Let's see if we can improve it. Hello viewers, this is Charles from Charles Kirk Studio. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to get faster transfer speeds from your smartphone to your computer or from your camera to your computer. So the first thing we need to talk about is transfer rates. And the important thing is, you need to know the difference between megabits per second and megabytes per second. Both are measures of the transfer speed, but they're quite different. These are abbreviated, and the abbreviations unfortunately are rather similar. Megabits per second is written like this, or rather abbreviated like this. And megabytes per second is abbreviated like this. And the difference between the two is simply that 8 megabits per second would be the equivalent of 1 megabyte per second. And if you look at the abbreviations carefully, you can see the differences in the B. For bits, it's a small b, a lowercase b, and for bytes, it's a capital B. Moving a large video file at 10 gigabits per second instead of less than 500 megabits per second means you're going to do it 20 times faster. And that's a huge saving in time. Now, if you're doing a wireless transfer from your phone or from your camera to your computer, that's fine for a small single file, but it's very time consuming for large files. The much better way to do it is to use a high-speed cable. So a high quality USB data cable, USB 3, will give you 5 gigabits per second or 10 gigabits per second, depending on the precise USB standard. So because the large video files are likely to be measured in gigabytes, I'm going to explain the difference between gigabits per second and gigabytes per second. So gigabits per second is written up there, and the critical thing is the small b. The small b means it's bits, and gigabytes per second is written up there, and the critical thing, of course, is the large b means bytes. So 8 gigabits per second would be 1 gigabyte per second, and that's what you need to know. One thing you need to watch out for is charging cables. Charging cables are great for charging, but they're usually very slow for transferring data. Charging cables, if you read the fine specification, you'll find that they're 480 megabits per second, whereas a high quality data cable, you can get 5 gigabits per second or 10 gigabits per second. I'm now going to show you the difference in transfer speeds transferring a large video file, in fact it's the one I just recorded, from my Samsung Galaxy S23 onto my Mac. At the moment I have a charging cable plugged in, a 480 megabits per second, so let's see what the transfer looks like. So I'm using Blackmagic camera app to record, and I am using the Samsung Smart Switch software to do the transfer. You can see that's a 7 gigabyte file, so let's try and transfer that over the charging cable. And as you know, everything should live in the downloads folder, so that's where I'm going to transfer it to. And you can see we're transferring. For some reason I'm not getting the little screen up here. Let's put that over here. You can see this isn't very quick. It's taken us quite a few seconds to a gigabyte. I'm going to stop that and switch the cables. I've now connected my Samsung Galaxy S23 to my Mac with a Ugreen USB 3, I think it's a 3.1 or 3.2. It's a 5 gigabit per second cable. I've opened Samsung Smart Switch app, and I'm now going to do the transfer again with the faster cable. And you can see already this is just much faster. it's probably about 10 times quicker, which is what you'd expect because this is transferring at 5 gigabits per second instead of 480 megabits per second. And of course, a gigabit is 1,000 megabits. So that's quite a difference. It's a 10-fold difference. I'm going to let this complete because I actually need this file to edit when I've finished making this recording. I hope you found that useful. I think that clearly demonstrates why using an appropriate cable is definitely the way to go if you want fast transfer speeds. So when you buy cables, the critical number you need to look at is the data transfer speed. And in general, you want to avoid charging cables because charging cables are generally 480 megabits per second, whereas data transfer cables, USB 3, can be 5 or 10 gigabits per second. And that's going to give you potentially 20 times faster transfer. One other consideration is cable length. Shorter cables generally are faster. If you can use a half-metre cable rather than a 2-metre cable, you'll get a better result. And the other thing is, it'll cost less. Right, so let's get back in the studio and see what this looks like in practice. Hello viewers. Right, I'm back in the studio. I want to show you on Amazon very quickly the difference between a charging cable and a data transfer cable. So I'm going to simply type into the Amazon search, and I'm doing this on Amazon.com, the US site, but it'll be the same on the other regionalised sites. I'm going to type in USB 4 data cable. In fact, you can see I've tried it already, so let's just go like that. So if you go data cable, you can see you get the sponsored ones. You can see USB 4 ones are quite expensive. These do, USB 4 does 40 gigabits per second, and you can use them for 8K HD displays, which is pretty cool. But you can see the USB 4 ones are quite pricey. I think you can probably get a cheaper one if you go for USB 3.2. So if you don't have data in the search, the sponsored ones will immediately come up with charging cables. You can see here the top one, the Amazon Basics one, is a charging cable, and you can see the transfer speed is 480 megabits per second. Note the small b. And it's got gold-plated plugs. Wow. I'm now going to enter USB 3.2 data cable in the search because that should be less expensive. So you can see the first sponsored entry is actually a data cable because it does 10 gigabits per second, and it's USB 3.2, which is backwards compatible with USB 3.1. You can also see it's $9.99. That's a lot less expensive than the USB 4 ones. So at this point you might be asking, should you buy a USB 4 one? I think I can answer that question, or at least give you enough information you can answer it yourself, if we look at the specifications of the mobile phones in terms of their USB connectivity. I now want to show you how to find the data transfer speed of your phone, because that's quite important if you're using phone for recording. Similar sort of things are going to apply for a camera. I'm going to type in iPhone 16 specifications, or specification, and here we go. We get both the iPhone 16 and the Plus. Let's open that in a new tab, and I also want the Pro. You'll see why in a minute. And the Pro Max. Right, good. What we need to do now is to scroll down to find the USB transfer speed on the USB-C connector. So here we are on charging and expansion. USB-C connector with support for charging, obviously. DisplayPort, not so obvious perhaps. But much more important, USB 2 up to 480 megabits per second. So if you have an iPhone or an iPhone 16 Plus, you only get USB 2. So you get these, for video at least, slow transfer speeds at 480 megabits per second. But if we look at the Pro, and I'm now asking myself why the screen's black, but anyway, and we scroll down to external connectors, not quite there yet, charging and expansions. On the Pro model, you get USB 3 up to 10 gigabits per second. So that's one reason why you might want to buy a Pro or upgrade to a Pro next time you upgrade, rather than having a normal one, because you get much faster transfers if you're using wired transfers. Let's repeat the same exercise for Samsung Galaxy. So this time I've searched for quickness. By the way, I'm actually recording this on a Samsung S23. I've searched the specifications for USB, and you can see it's USB 3.2 Gen 1, and that has a 5 gigabit per second transfer rate. I'm going to repeat this exercise for one of the popular Sony cameras, which is the Sony A7 Mark IV. What you'll find with cameras is they use USB 3. It's usually USB 3.2 Gen 1 or Gen 2, and you'll typically get 5 gigabits per second to 10 gigabits per second over a wired connection. I don't think at the time of recording there's any cameras with USB 4 connectivity, but if you found one, put a comment in the comments down below. Great, I hope you found that useful. So in conclusion, you can massively speed up your data transfers by using high quality cables with a high data transfer rate. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please click on the like and subscribe buttons. Have a fantastic day.